We're live, Chase. BYU loses their third consecutive game. BYU does not get it done on the road. BYU loses on the road in Fort Worth at TCU, 71-67. I'll start here, Chase. That was the most heart-wrenching gut punch loss of the season. That was brutal. BYU had that one. That's 2 in a row BYU should have had, and late game mistakes cost them once again, Chase.
They really did. It was tough to watch them lose to a team that I don't want people getting mad at me, but they're better than. And
they're more talented than TCU.
Yeah, and a game that they should have won, and a game that they needed to win, a game that it's just going to end up killing you at the end of the season. You just have a feeling that you're going to look back and be like, "Holy cow, that one was bad." That's what I'm feeling about this loss. It was all those emotions and feelings kind of wrapped into one. We can just start talking about the reasons. You talk about those late game mistakes, Karter, and it was that and the whole game. 18 turnovers is JV stuff, and against a TCU team who's like not even a huge defensive focused team. It was just stepping out of bounds, not catching balls, losing it in the lane every time you drive. It was just things that you are just like, why are they doing this? This is basic stuff, and good teams just don't make these silly, silly mistakes. And it happened the whole time. And it wasn't just the turnovers. It was dumb fouls in the wrong moments and missing rotations to lead to wide open threes and not getting back in transition and finding guys, which led to wide open dunks and taking questionable shots in the biggest moment of the game when you don't need to, right? It was kind of stacked on top of each other to where I really felt like BYU just beat themselves with these things. And it's hard to overcome them when you make that many mistakes and you just have these mental lapses. It's going to kill you, and it killed you tonight or today against the team that you should have beat, a game you should have won.
That's it. You nailed it. It was turnovers. It was mental mistakes. It was coaching. It was taking bad shots at the end of the game. Let's talk about the end of the game stuff. We'll go with the coaching part first. 1:12 left. Ball goes out of bounds from that block, and all of a sudden BYU takes their timeout with 11 seconds left on the shot clock. Last timeout in a tight ball game, tie game with 1:12 to go. Extremely questionable decision-making there by Kevin Young, to be honest. That came to bite him in the end because that last possession, BYU down 2, they would have loved to have a timeout to sit there and draw up a nice play and calm things down. That was the number one thing I was worried about, Chase. We talked about it in the preview. I said I wanted a close game. You even texted me during the game. And I said, I want a close game. I want to see how these guys can do. I want to see them battle through it because that is what's going to separate you throughout as the season goes on in conference play. You got to be able to win these close games. And it's a coaching it's a coaching thing, and it's these players. They are not – nobody from top to bottom felt comfortable in the final moments there. Everybody looked frazzled. Everybody looked spastic. Everybody was freaking out, and that was it was a sign that one, BYU hasn't really played in close games this year, and it's because they've had a super weak non-conference schedule. They did against Ole Miss, and we saw what happened in that game. So these close games are going to be a problem going forward, and you can't even blame this one on free throw shooting because we talked about it in the preview. TCU, terrible free throw shooting team. They ended up shooting, you got it right here, 63.2%, so right below their average. You can't ask for anything better. If the opposing team shoots 63% from the line, you should beat them. You shot 73%. The turnovers are terrible. It's just a game you can't lose, Chase. If you want to be a team playing in March Madness, you want to hear your names heard on Selection Sunday, these are the games you win. And flat out, BYU just couldn't get it done.
And that's the most damning thing for this team right now. And the worst news is that you can't. Tuesday we were able to be like, well, Texas Tech's a good team, and they have this guy who is, and Texas Tech proved that today, although they ended up, I think, losing by 1 in overtime to Iowa State. BYU, you did this at TCU, like in a building that wasn't, it's not sold out. It wasn't particularly loud or crazy. This isn't a tournament team. They don't have an NBA guy on their roster. I mean, you let Noah Reynolds put up 21 on you. Like, this is the problem. If you can't win this close road game, you're not. How are you going to win any of them? Because TCU is, and I don't want to poop on them. I mean, they won the game. I don't want to sound like I'm just dumping on TCU, but compared to the rest of your schedule and the rest of the teams in this conference, this one you couldn't get done. That is bad, and that is where we start to really get worried about this team and start to think some things that I think we've been avoiding all season, and especially in this 3-game losing skid, which I'm still not going to say because there's still we're gloom and doom right now. There's still chances to bounce back and all that, and we'll get to that later. But right now, we are going to be a little doom and gloom. This is bad. I mean, this was one you had to have to prove to yourselves, to prove to the fans, to prove to the country that you could get this done in a close moment on the road in the Big 12 against a bottom half team, and you did not. You made too many mistakes, too many mental lapses. You guys were not focused or locked in, and you just let it slip. And that, at the end of the day, is going to come back to haunt you, and it's going to be, Karter, if I could speak boldly, the worst loss of the season by far. We're going to look back and say this was the worst loss of the season, worse than that Houston 30-point game. I mean, because that's Houston and whatever. This was the worst loss of the season. I think it'll end up being that way by the end of the season.
I wouldn't be surprised by that as long as the next 3 games go in BYU's favor, because if any of the next 3 don't go in BYU's favor, I would say any of those would be the worst loss of the season. But True. I think that's fair. I agree with everything you said, and people are going to have concerns. People are having concerns. People are saying there has been a lot of money put into this roster. There is NBA talent on this roster. We've put up a lot of money for a head coach. Why is it not working, Chase?
That's a loaded question. I don't even know if I can answer it.
I can break it down. I'll break it down a little bit.
Please do. I have thoughts too, but you go.
They're running an NBA offense on a college court. It doesn't work. It flat out doesn't work unless you have guys named Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, LeBron James on the floor. Then maybe it works. But even then, in the college game, there is not enough space. And these guys, I'm gonna bang this drum all season long until it changes. You're gonna hear me repeat this nonstop. There is no flow to this offense. Every single player just feels like if the ball's not in their hands, or they're not actively setting a screen for the ball handler, they're just standing there, and it's just impossible for these guys to get into their rhythm, their flow. And you could see, shout out Dallin Hall, man. He played one heck of a game today, coming off the bench. I think coming off the bench really pissed him off, and great. He came out and showed, hey, I should be playing more. So credit to Dallin Hall today. And he came out, you could see, how did he get into his flow? The ball was moving like a hot potato, man. That's how you play basketball. That's how guys in college win. That's how winning basketball works in college basketball. It's just mind-numbing that there's so much of this iso ball and stagnant offense, and it doesn't work. And to be honest, BYU got bailed out in a lot of spots by Richie nailing some tough jumpers today, and Dallin hitting some tough shots and making some honestly incredible passes. But it didn't look pretty by any means, Chase.
No, it didn't. And I think to answer the question you pose, and I guess we're both going to try and answer here over the next few minutes or so, and I'm sure everyone's been asking themselves, I think at the end of the day, it's come down to these little silly mistakes over and over again, like spacing on offense and on defense, losing guys who are spacing correctly, right? It's the turnovers, it's the missed free throws. I think if you're Kevin Young and a staff full of NBA guys, you're used to players who just know that stuff and don't make those mistakes. So you feel like you don't have to emphasize it. right? You feel like I don't have to work on free throws. I don't have to talk about ball security because that's like obvious, right? That's obvious in the NBA. That's like, it, this is different. It's college. You have to emphasize these little things because these guys are still young, and newsflash, they're not all NBA talent. And even if they are NBA talent, like a couple of these guys are, they're not Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker. So, they're not even, Michael Bridges or these guys who are so good at what they do because they do the little things so well, because you trust them to make the right decisions in the biggest moments. And when they don't in the NBA, right, it's a huge thing. And we're like, what was he thinking? But in college, we see it every night because these kids are younger, because they have less experience. And that's just what I'm seeing right now from BYU. I'm seeing this experience and this lack of discipline really lose them these games. And I don't know if the coaching staff is emphasizing those things. And I have no idea. I am not in practices, so I don't want to call the coaching staff for what they are or are not doing. But from what I'm seeing is that those lack of the fundamentals, if you want to call them, the little things I'll say over and over, have just been killing BYU. You're not going to win games like that.
No, you're not. And I think it's fair to criticize. I mean, a 3-game losing streak with this amount of talent on this roster, it's alarming. And 2 out of 3, look, the Houston game, burn the tape, throw that out the window, whatever. Houston's been whooping people nonstop. But these last 2 games, man, they've been so concerning, and it's got to change. I don't know if it will, though. I don't know if it's going to change. I've tried to be positive throughout this, and where it's, okay, I think we see a different thing. Coming into this game, I said, okay, we're going to finally see Yegor step up. Eventually, I think he's going to step up and play he's going to have a dominant performance and show why he's an NBA talent, an NBA lottery guy. But up until now, he hasn't necessarily shown it as much, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's in his own head. I don't know if he's just got the yips with his jump shot, or if the spacing, the physicality of the Big 12 is affecting him. I don't know what it is. It has to get figured out, and it's now or never, Chase. We can talk about the future of this season going forward right after this break. Before we talk about BYU going forward and what needs to change and everything, other thing we forgot to mention, probably the biggest moment of the game, is we alluded to it a little bit, but Yegor taking that shot at the end, that fadeaway, turnaround, whatever, contested shot with 8 seconds left on the clock. It was a bad shot. It's just a matter of, Yegor and this team really hasn't been in these moments where you're on the road facing a Big 12 team in a tight game, and they freaked out a little bit. That timeout would have been nice to have there, but, it is what it is. It's just a bad shot. That's what it is.
It's a bad shot, obviously, especially coming from a guy who's won for his last 25 from beyond the arc, and you have someone who's put up 23 points or 24 points up to that point, Richie Saunders or Dallin Hall, who's been able to find open guys. Those are the ones who put you in the position to win the game in the first place. But you and I both on this podcast, Carter, stared each other in the eyes and said, and asked ourselves, who do we want at the end of the game? And we still said we want Yegor. But that wasn't what we meant. We trusted him to make the right decision, not just take any shot. And today he didn't. To defend him just a tiny little bit, the thought behind taking a shot with 8 seconds, I can get behind, because if you miss, you have a chance to foul.
Yes.
and do that.
The game's still alive.
Right. But it's the step back 3 when you're down 2 that I do not understand and do not like, especially from someone who's proven that they're just not making threes in this present moment. So, look, it's a bad shot, bad decision by Yegor. I don't know what else to say other than he's still 18 years old, folks. All right. I think we see the lottery, projections, and we see the fact he's played professionally overseas. We think he is super old and mature. He's still the youngest guy, or one of the youngest guys on the roster. He's definitely the youngest starter, definitely the youngest guy who gets minutes. And so I want to cut him a little bit of slack. And some of you who listen to us regularly maybe are sick of us cutting Yegor slack. And that's fair, because we give him a bunch, and we keep saying, like trust him. This is going to happen, and it isn't. But he is still 18 years old. Like he's still so young. He was born in 2006. People, like, let's just give him a little bit of a break. Let's give him a little bit more time. And the one good thing, the one good commentator comment from that was he's going to learn from this, which the commentators were not great, but he talked about how he's going to learn from that moment, and I think he will. I think he understands what he did was wrong and not the best move there. And I think he'll bounce back. But I'm losing a little bit of faith right now, Yegor. I hate to say it, but I still think he's got it in him. He's 18 years old.
I still think he's got it in him. I think, I think it's a tough position to be put into where you're 18 with no timeouts. I just cannot believe they didn't have a timeout at the end, Chase. That was the worst part for me.
That's on coaching. And if that's on Kevin Young or an assistant who miscalculated, I don't know. But holy cow, you got to go into that last 30 seconds with a timeout. Everyone knows that. It's basic stuff.
You gotta have a timeout unless you have a team you've been with for years. It's a veteran team. You're the 2009 Carolina Tar Heels. Fine, you don't need a timeout. You trust them. They know what to do. They've played in those games. This team is too inexperienced. You got to save those timeouts. I can't emphasize that enough. And that's my defense of Yegor is there should have been a timeout and should have been a play drawn up. Still a bad decision. And he hasn't been able to knock down a three. So that's got to change. He's got to be able to score more. I really liked his aggressiveness getting to the basket. He was able to – those left-handed layups were pretty, man. I mean, those were tough shots. There just needs to be a little more movement, a little more flow in this offense. It's just herky-jerky, no rhythm. And that shot at the end, man, what if it went in? We'd be talking very differently right now.
We'd be like, Yegor is back. Great shot.
He's got the clutch gene. He's got ice in his veins. Yeah. Talk about but didn't go in.
Basketball.
BYU loses, and they have lost their third in a row. We'll wrap up talking about some stuff going forward real quick. Oklahoma State up next at home. Must win. I've said it on Thursday, whenever we record and whenever we release the episode. Must win. If BYU loses on Tuesday at home to Oklahoma State, they will not be playing in March Madness, and it is extreme cause for concern. There is no excuses. Zero. I don't care if 3 players get the flu. I don't care what happens. You win this game on Tuesday night against Oklahoma State. There's no excuses. And honestly, there's no excuses for them not going 3-0 in this next stretch. We talked about that 4-game stretch coming up, how important that is. Got to go minimum 3-1, ideally 4-0. It's got to be a 3-1 stretch now because you got Oklahoma State at home, at Utah rivalry game. That might be the season right there. And then at Colorado. These are going to be very telling and could be confidence boosters. I know people are going to get annoyed saying, oh, how are you going to still have hope even though we just lost and we're on a 3-game losing streak and we can't win crap at the end of games and whatnot? I understand that. There are still so many opportunities in this conference to knock off big wins, and college basketball can change so freaking quickly, man. One day, I mean, it can just start immediately. From now, we could be talking about from where we feel right now as BYU people after this TCU loss to a month from now could be completely different. And I hope it's completely different, and it should be completely different. And you compare it to other instances in college basketball, teams who were on the bubble and then kind of rallied back and made that run and whatnot. The look is at the 22 Carolina Tar Heels, a team that had high expectations, that was struggling, losing inexcusable games. All of a sudden, early February, mid-February, started to hit their stride, knock off some big wins, make a little run in the conference tournament. They can make a run in March Madness. That is the hope with this team. Is that going to happen? Probably not. Probably not. But there are so many chances to get quad 1 wins here, Chase, and they can still do it. They still can do it. Not all hope is lost.
Not all hope is lost at all. And we're not crazy for saying that. It's just the nature of the Big 12. That's how it goes. Look, you're 1-3 right now. We talked about it 100 times. If you're 500, you go to the tournament. You have a chance here to go 3-0 and get to 4-3, and you're ahead of the curve, right?
Yep.
Of course, the toughest part of your schedule is coming up, and you got to rally and figure some things out. But that's what this 3-game stretch is for. If you do not go 3-0, then I'm ready to call it. I'm ready to say it's over. So not only is, in my opinion, Oklahoma State, which we'll preview Monday next week, is that a must win? These 3-1, you have to go 3-0. Otherwise, kiss March Madness goodbye. Say hello to the NIT. Hopefully you can make it.
NIT starts to become a question after that.
That's true. If you don't go 3-0,
learn the CBI, buddy.
1-2, you're ready to learn CBI. No, it's huge. And going forward, I don't know what to say because we've done this for 2 weeks now, where we've been like, they need to do this, this, and this. And if I was a doctor, a basketball doctor, and I diagnosed his team, I'd almost would just be like, man, just go
get the Costco guys in.
Bring in AJ and Big Justice, put them in the annex. Let's see what they can do for you. No, I would just say, like, look, go practice, play a ton of 5-on-5, and just I don't know, man. Like, get more comfortable playing basketball. Get more comfortable making smart decisions. Get comfortable.
The chemistry doesn't seem like it's there, does it?
It's not at all, and it almost seems like, sometimes when you coach high school or you even play high school, you're focused so much on what the coach is saying that you're just like, I'm not even running an offense. I just want to do everything perfect. I just want to do what he says so well. And you forget that you're playing a game, a sport. This is almost, I think I see that a little bit. Not saying that's exactly what's happening, but it's kind of that vibe where they're just like, everyone's just so focused on just doing what the X's and O's say. They're missing that little bit of just like, this game is fun. It's beautiful when you play it right. If you think, you think of like the 2012 Spurs or like 2016 Warriors, like when you're like, that was beautiful basketball. That's what we love about the sport. But right now they're acting like, they're just like, I just got to do what the X's and O's say so bad and so tight. And they're missing that ability to flow. Today we saw sparks of it, right? When they get out and move and things are flowing, Dallin's finding guys off the driving kick. That's the BYU basketball that we thought we'd see. And they have guys who are capable of that. And Yegor, obviously Dallin and Richie, who had a great game. It's not happening right now. And I don't know. I don't know who to blame. I don't know if we need to blame anyone, but I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, when you watch the offense, it's like they have these arbitrary sets, but in college basketball, I feel like it needs to be more like an NFL or like a college football playbook. It's your routes here, your routes here, your routes there. Run them. Like, nothing should be left up to chance, but I don't know. I'm not a coach. I'm not in the building. And, who knows? I'm just an idiot talking about BYU basketball, so who knows? But, Chase, man, at Utah, I can't wait to go to that game. Because
should be great.
I've watched a decent amount of Utah basketball now. They stink. They're not good. They're bad at basketball. And if you lose that one, look, you can get by a lot. BYU fans are very forgiving people. It's in the religion. If you lose at Utah to this Utah team, man, start repenting, buddy. Like, this season, these 3 games are going to determine this season, Chase, whether it goes south or up. I mean, it could go real bad. It could go real good.
Yep. That's it. I think I wouldn't, it's not over an overreaction to say this is the most important 3 games of BYU basketball's year. You want to read these Twitter comments, Karter?
Yeah. I had it pulled up. Hold up. Let me here. Let's go.
Okay, go for it.
I'll go with Jack Carpenter first. Shout out Jack, legend. Bruh, Yegor has still got to be hurt, right? ? And help me understand why Cannon Catchings is on such a short leash and we're cool with Dawson Baker putting up the third most shots on this team? ? Come on, man. You want to answer that one, Chase?
All good questions, Jack. I don't think Yegor's hurt. I don't think they're going to try and use that as an excuse. The Cannon short leash stuff, I think it's an awesome question. And I even talked about in our preview, I was like, I want to see Cannon like play actual minutes in this game and do his thing. But again, he played an alarming 9 minutes.
3 in the second half.
Yeah, which I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if I'm watching Cannon, I'd be like, you got to take him out at this point. But I also don't know if I'm like sitting here and I could stand on my flag and be like, you have to play him because what is he doing when he gets his minutes? And then there's always flashes, but
and I don't know,
Jack, you're throwing a lot at us here. I think you're right.
Yeah, hey, Jack, you're bringing up some great points, and also it's just also like I don't know what's going on, if like team wise, chemistry wise, if there's something there, or if he's just not in the right headspace. I don't know what's going on because he's a super talented player. We all know that, and it should show up, and right now it's not. And Baker putting up the third most shots of the team. When he's hot, but today he was not. So that's that.
Nope.
Let's move on. Let's talk about another question. Let's go Karter A at CJ Andy 33. Are the Cougs trying to play an NBA style offense with guys that aren't ready for it? It's really not good right now. Karter, shout out, buddy. You nailed it. I've been saying that. I've been preaching that. They're running an NBA offense with college players. It's like putting the wrong puzzle piece in the wrong spot. It doesn't work. It doesn't fit. It's not going to fit.
It's like having a piece from a different puzzle and trying to put it in this puzzle.
It's
not the same puzzle.
It does not mix. It's like putting. It's just like putting. Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to think of an analogy with pizza because I think I'm hungry right now. I don't know, but are the Cougs trying to play an NBA style offense with guys that aren't ready for it? 1,000%. And there needs to be some kind of blend because clearly Kevin Young is a brilliant offensive mind and clearly knows what he's doing in the basketball world. He's got to be able to blend what works in college and what works in the NBA and come up with that magic formula. It just hasn't worked quite yet. So, Chase, you want to read some more questions or comments?
Yeah, let's go with E_win24. Shout out, comments every time. Who on this team has a killer instinct? And I'm assuming he says, and can be the go-to guy to win these types of games down the stretch. We have lacked that these past 2 games while Darian Williams and Noah Reynolds took over in late game situations. Great question, by the way. Someone asked Kevin Young that Tuesday night, and you know what he said? I don't think we have that. He said, I don't know who it is.
He said, Foos. That's a fair question. And then he went down and named everybody on the roster.
Yep. So if I'm looking at tonight specifically or today specifically, I would have loved to see, there's 2 guys you want with the ball at the end of the game there. It's Richie. One, I think a Richie drive was the best move you had there because he was getting fouls there at the end of the game and he was knocking down those free throw shots and he was finishing. And then the other is Dallin Hall because I think right now, we saw it last season. We've seen proof of it. He can make the right decision in those moments. And he has won, literally by himself, won BYU games before. Big, fat games. And so at this point, with the way Yegor's playing, I think it'd be Dallin to be your go-to guy to not necessarily score, but make the right decision, or Richie on a drive to try and win the game.
Am I dumb to still have faith that Yegor is that guy and who I still want him being – I still want the ball in his hands at the end of games?
Me too, and I don't think it's a bad option. I just was talking more specifically about this game we just watched because those were the guys with the hot hands, and sometimes you just got to go with who's got it in that moment.
Let's go with some more. This guy, his name's Unfiltered. I don't feel like reading that. I am right with a bunch of underscores. You need to play your best players together, not be afraid to bench people who aren't productive. To be honest, I think that's a bit of an unfair statement because Dallin Hall had been struggling a little bit, and Kevin Young said, you know what, hey, hit the bench, we'll start Trevin now. And Dallin responded today, so credit to Dallin. And so I don't think that's really necessarily the problem here. I'm not exactly sure who he's alluding to there. Maybe Yegor because he struggled today. I'm not sure, but they're trying to play their best players. They just don't know who they are, to be honest.
I think
And that's the honest
yeah.
truth.
It's just that you don't know who meshes well together. The Kaba, the Kafus minutes, they're so different. Mowit comes in, he gives you good defensive, but he's not giving you anything offensively and kind of ruins the spacing a little bit. It's just the combinations aren't there yet. The rotations are all off.
Yeah, 100%. You want to read a couple more?
Yeah, from Riles Mooserton. I don't know if that's your real name. It's just at Mooserton. But shout out.
DM us if we got the pronunciation wrong.
Yeah. The D is still crap.
Pause.
They overhelp and force a guy to run across the court to cover a guy when the offense swings it around. Almost always ends in an uncontested 3 attempt or a blow by to the bucket. They said KY is a good coach, ... I haven't seen it. I think that last sentence, look, he's a good coach, and NBA GMs will tell you that. So I don't know if we're ones to criticize exactly what he's doing right now, but I'm not going to sit here and say you're wrong about him getting outcoached so far in his Big 12 career. With your first point, I actually think you're completely right. It's something we've been saying for a little bit now. The rotations on defense are still crap, Mooserton, and they do give up wide open threes. They do give up wide open threes, and they are giving in these blow-bys. That's what cost them the game in the end. TCU is not even a good three-point shooting team, but they started red hot because they were just getting these wide open looks and knocking it down. It's like open gym.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's a big difference between knocking down threes and knocking down wide open threes, Chase. I mean, you and I, that's us shooting around in the church gym being like, all right, we're going to nail some threes. Open court, wide open shot. You're going to shoot 40, 50% from three no matter what. TCU was knocking them down early because there wasn't a guy within 10 feet of these shooters in the first half especially. So, defense is still concerned in those spots. And then he also added, why the heck is Yegor doing a post-up fadeaway from three with 8 seconds left, ... with Richie in the corner? Demon just looks so uncomfortable out there, pressing way too much. The turnovers, missed shots ought to be taking a toll mentally. I think that's fair. I think we kind of mentioned all that earlier on, and the physicality of it all, it's very, very different from what he was playing in the academies in Europe to playing this physical style rock fight Big 12 basketball. It doesn't necessarily fit his game as much with less spacing and everything. And, yeah, I think the missed shots are taking a toll on him mentally and giving him the yips. He needs a confidence booster game. Oklahoma State can be that game for him, and I hope it is.
I hope it is too. And I think good comments, Mooserton. Shout out.
Yeah. You have one more?
Let's go with there's a few more here. Let's go with at Peter Leuwen. Sorry if I mispronounced that. 16-6 turnover ratio gave BYU bad chances the whole game. Keeping it this close with that many turnovers tells me that's what decided the game. I think you're right. I think we touched on that. It's also, if you want to be positive, which we do, the fact that you did that and you still were sitting here saying you should have won is a good sign that there's something there. It's not good that you keep losing. There's no positive way to spin a loss. But there's something there with this team. I'll even if this team ends up just never breaking through, I'll forever, for the rest of my life, tell people something about this 2024-25 basketball team. Like, they have something. If it never shows, it never shows. But there's something there for sure.
There is something there, and that's why you should still have a little bit of hope, but I understand you should be disappointed after a game like today. Last one we'll do. We'll go at BYU Insider, BYU for the W. Demon has been super underwhelming, ... I don't need the guy to drop 30 a game, but the money spent / expectation, it would be ideal to not have him be a liability on the floor when the game matters. And I think this changes. I don't think this is a trend that's going to be continuing all season. I think you got to give him a little bit of leeway. I know it's tough, but these guys are freshmen. And I know it's one and done, and you're like, well, he's supposed to be an NBA guy, and he's only here for 8 months and all this stuff. Like, everything is so accelerated with these one and done guys. Everything, the expectations, everything is just. But you got to remember, there's still freshmen playing college basketball in one of the toughest conferences in the country. It's going to be tough. Now, if this trend is continuing mid-February, then yeah. Or honestly, in the next couple weeks. I mean, that it's got to change. But yeah, I mean, he didn't have a great game today.
No, couldn't agree more. I think I've shared my thoughts on Yegor.
Yeah, I think we've done enough Yegor stuff.
We're still a pro Yegor show, and no matter what, we'll be rooting for him. But I think these next couple of weeks are his weeks. I really think against some inferior opponents, he starts to figure this out. This is where he gets his mojo back.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, he just balls out against Utah, man. Hope like a nice little 20-point triple-double on the road at the Huntsman
He throws
Center.
down the U. Oh man, that's what we need.
Yeah, and then just like all of a sudden, it's like 80% BYU fans at the Huntsman Center on Saturday and everything, and he drops. That game should not be close. I said I wanted a close game against TCU, see if they could pull it out. Hopefully, the next 3 games are double-digit wins.
They should be. Yeah,
hopefully. But anyhow,
hopefully.
All right, that's long enough. We went way longer than I thought today, but make sure to tune in. We'll be doing a Oklahoma State preview on Monday, so tune into that. We'll be back. Hit that subscribe button at ChurchBallPod on everything, at Chase_Rogers0, at Karter B8. Subscribe.